Yes, my friends. So I was talking about the proportion, and in proportion, we are this time dealing with some important results. Clear? We are dealing with some important results, and in these results, we will see some important concepts here. Okay, first concept is that is something called as invertendo. Invertendo. I already told you about this. This is invertendo. ये इससे पहले भी पढ़ा हुआ है छोटी क्लासेस में. अगर नहीं भी पढ़ा हुआ है किसी ने, then he can get a lot of knowledge here in this context. So we have invertendo. What is invertendo? अगर आपके पास कोई रेशियो दिया गया है, मान लीजिए कोई रेशियो दिया गया होगा, अगर आपको a रेशियो b जो होगा, a रेशियो b, इसका प्रोपोर्शन दिया गया होगा आपको सी रेशियो डी के साथ. ठीक है, सी रेशियो डी के साथ. इज इट क्लियर? एंड यू कैन देन आई कैन से देन नोट दैट इफ दिस इज अ रेशियो गिवन, ये प्रोपोर्शन गिवन दिया गया है उधरी से, देन हम ऐसे भी लिख सकते हैं. कैसे? इनको रिवर्स करके b इज टू a, यानी कि b रेशियो a proportion D ratio C. D ratio C. Is it clear? This property is called as invertendo. इसी प्रॉपर्टी को invertendo के नाम से जाना जाता है. Is it clear? I hope ये आपको समझ आया होगा, बट फिर भी मुझे ये लिखने दीजिए आप. ये मैं आपके लिए लिख देता हूँ. Clear? Let me rub this all. Okay. Let me write this concept, which is called as invertendo. Invertendo. So what is invertendo? Remember here, if we have a ratio b proportion c ratio d, ठीक, a ratio b proportion c ratio d, then I can say then I can write b ratio a proportion d ratio c. कुछ नहीं किया, इनको थोड़ा उल्टा किया, रिवर्स किया. d ratio c. This is the first result, which is called as invertendo. Very important result. Let me come to another type of result. That is something called as alternando. Alternando. This result is known as alternando. Alternando. What is alternando? देखिए, alternando में क्या होता है? अगर आपको रेशियो दिया गया होगा ऐसे, a is to b, ठीक, a is to b, proportion दिया गया होगा c is to d, is it clear? Then you can also write here this thing. आप ऐसे लिख सकते हो, a is to c, remember these things, a is to c proportion, so that means this into this, and b is to d. Clear? b is to d. This result is something called as alternando. Let me erase this and I will explain it here. This result is called as alternando. So in the alternando, what I told you, remember here, if we have a is to b is to c is to d, then I can also write a is to c, b is to d. I can write it also as in this form. This was all about alternando. We have another concept that is something called as componendo. Clear? What is the meaning of this componendo? Componendo is very simple. For example, if we have given any ratio, any proportion, a is to b, proportion c is to d, a is to b, proportion c is to d, C is to D. Then we can also write it as A plus B, remember A plus B in bracket, A plus B ratio B, ratio B is to proportion. Then we have proportion here. Here we have proportion here, and in this bracket we will write C plus D, and here I will write ratio D. This result is called as componendo. Let me write down it for you here. Okay, this result is called as componendo. So if we have A is to B is to C is to D, then we can also write it as, we can write like this: A plus B, but we have to write these in brackets. Clear? A is to A plus B, then we have write here is to B, then proportion C plus D. Clear? C plus D, and then proportion this ratio D. This result is called as componendo. Okay, friends, let me show you another type of result here. We have another result that is called as dividendo. Another result we have dividendo. What is dividendo? For example, if you have given a ratio A is to B, proportion C is to D, Clear? If you have given this type of the ratio, you can also write it as, friends, A minus B, then you will write here proportion B, ratio B, sorry, this is ratio B. ये इसी का गाइस थोड़ा उल्टा है, जहां जहां प्लस है वहां पर माइनस लगा देना है, एंड प्रोपोर्शन C plus D, C minus D ratio D. This result is known as dividendo. Is it clear? यानी कि कह रहा है कि अगर आपके पास दिया होगा A ratio B, proportion C ratio D, this is equal, basically equality symbol. You can write it also as, if you write this, if you subtract A and B, then उसको करोगे ratio B के साथ, फिर proportion करोगे यानी कि equality, फिर करोगे C minus D, उसको ratio करोगे D के साथ, result will be same in both the cases. That's why he is supposed to do this. Clear? This is all about dividendo. Let me write it for you. So these are very important results, because questions in वैसे ही होते हैं maximum, as I checked this in this. So this is dividendo. What is dividendo? If we have A is to B is to C is to D, then I can say you, or then I can also write like A minus B, A minus B ratio B, proportion C minus D ratio D. This is dividendo. We have lost here last type of result, which is called as componendo and dividendo. This is the combination you can see, componendo and dividendo. Clear guys? Componendo and dividendo. Is it clear? वहां पर आपको क्या करना है, इस रिजल्ट में सिंपल मैं आपको समझाने की कोशिश करूंगा, अब यहीं पर मैं सिखाने की कोशिश करूंगा आपको। इसमें आपको क्या करना है, कॉम्पोनेंटो एंड डिविडेंडो में अगर आपके पास दिया गया होगा रेशियो, इफ वी हैव गिवन, इफ यू हैव ए गिवन रेशियो लाइक a is to b proportion c is to d, if you have like this, clear, then you can also write it as like this. You can see, please note down this, a plus b ratio a minus b आप इसको ऐसे भी लिख सकते हो, फिर प्रोपोर्शन c plus d ratio c minus d दिस इज ऑल अबाउट कंपोनेंटो एंड डिविडेंडो। यानी कि गाइस कह रहा है कि अगर आपके पास ऐसे दिया गया होगा प्रोपोर्शन, आप उसको ऐसे भी लिख सकते हो कि अगर आप a प्लस बी करोगे, फिर रेशियो उसको करोगे a माइनस बी के साथ, उसको इक्वालिटी करोगे c प्लस डी के साथ, यानी कि इन दोनों को प्लस के साथ फिर रेशियो करोगे, आपको सेम मिलेगा दोनों का रिजल्ट। यानी कि ऊपर वाले रेशियो का भी सेम होगा आंसर, नीचे वाले का भी प्रोपोर्शन का सेम होगा आंसर। इज इट क्लियर? सो these are some results: invertendo and alternando, componendo, dividendo and componendo and dividendo, and we will see some questions on these topics tomorrow inshallah rahman. Till then, Allah Hafiz.